Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Steven Universe Retrospectives. And today we're going to be discussing episodes 149 and 150 of Steven Universe, Reunited and Legs from Here to Homeworld. Now, in the typical tradition of episodes that typically exceed the 11-minute mark, I'm going to be separating this video into two sections, with one section focusing exclusively on the first episode of this vlog, and then the second section focusing exclusively on the second one, as Reunited is a 22-minute episode, so I feel it deserves its own section. So there you go. I'm just giving you a heads up. But anyway, with that out of the way, let's get to talking about Reunited. And to recap, so a few episodes prior to this, Steven wound up learning that his mother, Rose Quartz, was in actuality Pink Diamond, the leader of the invading Gem Force on Earth, and the one that Rose was supposedly fighting against and had quote-unquote shattered. In reality, she had actually faked her own shattering, and the whole reason that she had set up the crystal gems at all was because, like Garnet said, she came to appreciate the value of Earth, but her siblings wouldn't let her stop, so she tried to scare them off before eventually changing her mission to actually trying to make Earth an independent colony after she saw that gems themselves could grow too. However, as such, with the revelation of who his mother truly was, Steven of course did tell the other crystal gems about this, or more specifically Garnet and Amethyst, as Pearl already knew. And as a consequence of that, Garnet wound up having such a meltdown that she wound up splitting up. Now, while Ruby and Sapphire did come to terms with the truth in their own ways, being separated did allow them to reflect on things, and they realized that a big reason why they stayed together for so long as Garnet was because Rose had encouraged it, but ultimately they're wondering, well, what's life going to be like on their own? Well, they still want to be with each other. I mean, don't get me wrong, they still do find value in doing things on their own, or more specifically Ruby does, but at the end of the day, they do still truly care about each other, but they want to make sure that being together is their decision. And so, Ruby, after thinking it over with Steven's help, wound up, well, proposing to Sapphire, stating that maybe they should get married, which Sapphire accepted, which is where this episode began. Also, Bismuth came back and is now part of the team again, so there you go. But anyway, yeah, Reunited is, well, Garnet's wedding day, and the episode actually begins with an opening number called for one day. Let's only think about love, or let's only think about love. I don't know which one it is, but point is, it's actually a really strong opening number, and it's basically a song about how everyone is kind of dealing with a lot of crap. That there's a lot of bad things that are going on in their lives. They have to come to terms, like they're still having to come to terms with Rose in reality being Pink Diamond and waging war against herself, about how everyone's feelings about her now, about Lapis Lazuli and everything that came about, or how Pearl hid this secret for so long. But ultimately, at the song's core, they say, despite all that, just for one day, let's try and think of something positive and, well, nice in our lives. In this case, let's think about love. And it's a nice song. It's very cheery, reflects on the dark realities that's kind of surrounding this whole thing. Hold on a second. Sorry, I think someone was shooting off a firework. But anyway, yeah, the song does reflect on the dark reality that's going on around everyone, but ultimately states that for now, let's just try and focus on this positive thing. Which, you know what? I think that's a good idea. Like, while some people would argue that the song's about ignoring your problems and just not doing anything to stop it, I'm of the opinion that the song is truly about, just having some niceness in the midst of so much bad. Because if you can't appreciate the good things about life, then the bad things are just going to crush you. So, that's ultimately what it's about, and I think it's nice. And we do get to pop around and check in on all the crystal gems as they're preparing for the wedding. As Ruby and Sapphire, of course, are trying to stay away from each other because the bride and groom can't see each other on the wedding or on wedding day, or else it's bad luck. And then we see Amethyst getting roses put up before realizing maybe they're controversial and deciding to get some sunflowers. We see Peridot kind of going to where the barn used to be and wondering if Lapis was potentially right and if the diamonds might come here to get the cluster one day. We see Bismuth as she's all decked out in a suit of armor because it's the nicest thing she owns. And it's, again, just some nice, sweet stuff mixed in with some seriousness. But it all eventually does come to a head as the time of the wedding is upon us. All the guests are there, all the denizens of Beach City, plus Andy and Connie's parents who are also there. Also Connie, and we see everyone getting into position. We see Greg playing stronger on the guitar, and a nice little serenade. or stronger than you, yes. A nice little serenade. We see everyone, it's all just sweet and nice. We see Sapphire up on the altar, dressed in a nice suit, with Ruby coming out in a dress, which is a nice little subversion, as you kind of would expect it to be the other way around with them, considering their personalities, but whatever. Whatever, it's a gay wedding. But ultimately, eventually Ruby does run up to the altar, and after we get some nice little funny scene where Peridot just chucks flowers at the guests, which is really nice, and I love the reactions that we get from the peanut gallery in that one. Eventually, yeah, it's time to say their vows. And I'm not gonna repeat everything verbatim, as I don't remember exactly what happened, but I won't deny it's really sweet. Like, genuinely, really a sweet moment as Ruby and Sapphire as they exchange vows talk about just how much the other has changed them, how important they are to their lives. Ruby talks about how important Sapphire is and how she became her everything, how nothing will break them apart. Sapphire talks about how before she met Ruby, like her life was just one path, but then Ruby opened her up to so many infinite possibilities. How she's happy that not only did Ruby change her life, but that she changed Ruby's. It's, again, really good stuff. I just recommend finding the scene anywhere, watch the episode, find it online. I don't care. It's just a damn sweet scene. And as such, rings are exchanged. What I love is that when we check in on Bismuth, she's tearing up, but she hands over the rings. Ruby and Sapphire place them on each other's fingers. They both say their I do's, and Steven says, "I now pronounce you Garnet." And so, Ruby and Sapphire go in for a kiss. It's nice, it's sweet, and their forms merge together as they once again fuse back into Garnet, who, again, what I love, her outfit is a mix of Sapphire's suit and Ruby's dress. It's some nice stuff, and so everyone cheers, it's all happy, and so time for the celebration. So, yeah, the wedding is over, and now it's time for the reception. And so everyone's just, doing their own thing at the reception. We got music from Sour Cream, we got everyone dancing on the dance floor, we see people just chatting it up with one another. It's all some really nice stuff. We even get this kind of funny scene where Jamie and former Mayor Dewey are just kind of sitting at the same table, and both end up crying and dancing with each other because of their losses. In the case of Jamie, he can't be with Garnet, and for Mr. Dewey, I guess I'm gonna call him now, it's his loss of the job as a mayor. It's kind of funny. But ultimately, yeah, it's a success. And even Garnet goes up to Steven and just picks him up and just gives him a hug. It's, again, really sweet, and they both both Garnet and Steven are happy just to have this because, well, they kind of needed a break from all the crazy shit. So they're both happy that they were able to do this. And Garnet even says that she doesn't need future vision to know that she's going to remember this day for the rest of her life. It's, again, really sweet stuff. Also, there was a gag where when Garnet threw the bouquet, she flew it so high no one saw where it went, and then as they're talking, it lands right in Bismuth's arms. It's hilarious. But it's just sweet. It's nice. It's heartfelt. It's all nice and gooey and mushy and all that sweet and all those sweet positive emotions that everyone associates with love. So, again, I like it. However, as Garnet talks about how much she's going to remember this day, Steven starts tearing up a bit, which Garnet apologizes for, but Steven says, "No, it's fine. I guess this is more emotional than I thought." But even as he wipes the tears away, they keep coming. And that's when Steven realizes these aren't tears of joy or any other emotion. They're something else. At which point Steven asks Garnet if this is what he thinks it is, and so she used her future vision, and yep, it's Blue Diamond. And she's not alone. And so the pair of them look up to the sky, and parting through the clouds are blue and yellow diamonds, just large armed ships just descending upon the earth. As such, Immediately, all available crystal gems are on the offensive. Steven tells Nanafwa to just tell everyone to get to safety and get the hell out of there as quickly as possible, while the crystal gems there immediately just arm themselves and get ready for battle, as they assume, obviously, that the diamonds are there for them. They're there to kill them, take over the planet, do all the crazy conquering shit they're known to do. Only when the ships go down to Earth, they just fly right by the beach, which, much to the gem's confusion, until they realize something. They ain't here for them. Like Peridot said, They're here for the cluster. And we immediately see that proven true as we see Yellow Diamond's ship just slam its hand right into the ground trying to break through the surface to get to the cluster beneath. At which point they realize the crystal gems realize they need to find a way to stop this. After all, the cluster is well bubbled beneath the planet's core, and the only reason it hasn't formed yet is because of the bubble. But if that bubble pops, yeah, not a good thing. As such, the first option is for Steven to try and communicate with the cluster, and so since he can only communicate with it while he's sleeping, he goes back into his house and tries to fall asleep, with him ultimately conking out when his dad tries playing a lullaby. And so Steven is able to make contact with the cluster, but he's too little too late, as while he tries to tell it to calm down, unfortunately Yellow Diamond's efforts eventually do break through, quite literally in this case, as the bubble pops, and with Steven waking up saying that's true. As such, everybody runs back out of Steven's house and sees what's going on, and sure enough, from the hole that Yellow dug through, you can see the cluster forming as you see again a legion of ghostly hands and faces rising and writhing from the ground, all moaning and groaning as they all coalesce into the sky into a giant arm protruding from beneath the earth. And I'm not going to mince words here. It's a fucking creepy sight. Like, here's the thing. Unlike the gem mutants we see before, it's clear that the form that we see the cluster take here, or at least the arm, it's not like a mishmash of various gem limbs and whatsoever. It looks like that this is more akin to a perfect fusion, as the gem shards do seem to be more in harmony based on what Steven did. But I won't deny it still looks creepy, because all those mishmashing of gems, it makes the arm looks like a giant muscle. I mean like an actual muscle. Like all the mishmashing colors and clashing all together makes it look like a red and veiny. Like there's no skin. It's just creepy. So it's gross. As such, immediately the first response is, oh shit, the cluster is out, the Earth is dead, we're all doomed. Until the cluster rears its arm back and smacks us and ends up smacking aside the yellow and blue ships, which is a little confusing until the cluster brings its fist over to the crystal gems and gives them a thumbs up. Yep, it turns out the giant the world-destroying geoweapon is on their side, because after all, it didn't want to form in the first place, and basically it doesn't want to destroy the Earth. So guess what? The cluster's a crystal gem, I suppose. But yeah, that does seem to give things more hope, but that doesn't mean they're down for the count. For you see, the diamonds don't like being defied, and so Yellow ship comes back, and so the cluster and Yellow Diamond go on up getting into a fight. Actually, they get into a literal arm wrestling match, as they both just grab at each other's hands and try and force the other down. It's really nice. But that also means that Blue Diamond now has to be occupied, and well, there are a team of crystal gems right there, one of which is supposed to be the leader of said resistance, and so Blue Diamond brings her ship down right in front of the temple, and comes right out of it, demanding to see Rose Quartz so that she may face punishment for all she's done. Of course, all available crystal gems will want to go on the offensive, with Greg even making a joke about how maybe he should put on the old Uniforce charm before everyone tells him to go, which I find that hilarious, which it could actually work. But either way, Steven wants to instead end things peacefully and try to explain things to Blue Diamond as he rushes out onto the beach and tries to tell Blue Diamond that things aren't what they are, that Rose is actually pink, she faked her shattering. But Blue ain't having any of that shit. She's too engulfed in her emotions and grief and is not willing to listen. So much so that she ends up just blasting Steven with an orb that ends up throwing him back into the temple. Thankfully, he doesn't get hurt as he ends up getting caught by Alexandrite as Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl fused off screen. But before Alexandrite can go on the offensive, Blue unleashes another attack. Specifically, she unleashes an attack that I call the Grief Bomb, as she essentially unleashes a tidal wave of all of her grief and emotion that she's been storing up for the last 6,000 years. And, it hits all available gems hard, so much so that they're all essentially emotionally crippled, with Alexandrite unfusing back into Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl, and literally all gems just now on their knees as they're just crying and weeping. The only one who's not hurt by all this is Connie, who immediately realizes, oh shit, I need to do something, before she calls Lion, and she jumps on Lion's back, and the pair of them rush at Blue, with Lion throwing Connie into the air, and her intent to just bring her sword right down on Blue Diamond's face. before Blue Diamond just catches her in the air and shatters the thing because, well, it's nothing to her. As such, it really looks like that things are going to hell. Blue Diamond isn't listening to Steven, and she's more than a match for all of the crystal gems. So, this is not looking good, especially when not made any better by the fact that going back to the battle with Yellow Diamond and the cluster, it looks like the cluster is starting to falter a little. But that's when Garnet seems to get a second wind as she manages to rise to her feet, and while tears are still streaming down her face, she starts just approaching Blue Diamond and essentially is just calling her out. Of course, Blue's like, "Who the hell are you?" But then Garnet confirms her, I'm a being made of love, someone that you failed to stop over 6,000 years ago." She didn't actually say 6,000, but we're rounding up here. At which point, what I like is that Blue Diamond actually remembers Garnet. She remembers how she was the Ruby and Sapphire that dared defy her court. But yeah, eventually Garnet does manage to make it to Blue and just grasps onto her legs and just starts smacking her with her fist. No gauntlets, just her plain fist, and saying, "No, this is supposed to be my day. You're not going to ruin this for me." And Blue even says, "Is this how you plan to stop me, by clinging to my feet?" But then Garnet's like, "Nah, I just need to make sure you didn't take 3 steps to the right," which confuses Blue until she feels a little drip, drip, drip above her. And when she looks up, she sees Lapis Lazuli and a barn, which Lapis proceeds to drop right on Blue Diamond's head. That manages to disrupt Blue Diamond's grief grenade, so to speak, and as a result, all the crystal gems are recovered. So as such, Lapis just flies back down to the ground, and all the crystal gems run up to her, with Steven even embracing her in a hug, and Peridot even like, "You came back." And Lapis says, "Well, if they're gonna punish me as if I was a crystal gem, then I may as well be one. Got room for one more?" And yep, her character development has come all the way around, everyone. Lapis Lazuli is now officially a member of the Crystal Gems. And not a moment too soon, because immediately after they say yes, Blue Diamond manages to come from the remains of the barn and proceeds to try and hit them all once again with another grief bomb. But one gem doesn't falter. Lapis. Oh, sure, tears are in her eyes, but rather, she just wipes the tears away and says, "I felt worse." At which point she just starts chaining Blue Diamond to the beach using the ocean water, again disrupting the grief field for the rest of the gems to recover. And so the battle really gets going. And if you can't tell by all of this, this is a fucking awesome battle. Just seeing the crystal gems just rallying all together, going up against Blue Diamond, combining their forces. It's awesome. It's just an awesome fight scene. Like, she tries hitting them all. She tries bombarding the beach. Steven's able to throw up a shield that all the crystal gems are able to hold back. They all rush forward. Connie riding on Lion, who manages to knock Blue Diamond aside with a roar while everyone else flies at her and starts trying to whip at her, punch at her, shoot at her. We see that Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl have augmented their weapons with more bismuth's additions to them. So, like, the whip's a flail, the spear's a trident, the Garnet's gauntlets are brass knuckles. It's all just so fucking cool. Even at one point, I'm losing my mind here. One point, Peridot tries throwing cans at Blue Diamond, and Bismuth says, "I like your attitude." And then she says, "I'll give you a hand." She picks Peridot up and chucks her right at Blue Diamond's face. And so as a result of that, everyone rallies up together, and then Lapis is able to get them in a water ball, and then grabbing with a water arm, she's able to wind up and a pitch, throwing them right at Blue. And while Blue's able to pull Peridot aside, this allows the crystal gems to go in and just hit her with an entourage of attacks, knocking her aside one after the other, knocking her, just going here and there, everywhere, until finally they manage to hit her with one. Until finally, Steven's able to hit her right in the gut with a spike ball, which actually causes her to finally falter and fall to her knees. And no sooner does this happen than the cluster manages to get a one-up on Yellow as it winds its arm back and then slams her ship right down onto Blue's, which not only destroys Blue and Yellow's ships, but also causes Blue's ship to just slam right on top of Blue. It's awesome. It's just an awesome fight scene. You gotta just see it for yourself. My fanboying has not suitably convinced you. But yeah, the battle seems to be over. And so, with the cluster now having defeated yellow, it decides it wants to go back into its bubble. As such, it turns back to light and fades back into the earth. And I'm assuming it can put up another bubble. I mean, it was able to put up a bubble before, so I guess it could do one now. But either way, everyone at first thinks, are we done? Is it over? And at first, they're all congratulating themselves. Like, everyone's patting each other on the back, just complimenting each other. Garnet compliments Steven for a good wedding reception. It seems all nice, right? Not really. Although, sorry, one thing I forgot to mention is that when Blue's ship came down, it also crushed up a portion of Steven's house, and thankfully, Greg is unharmed, but yeah, that's going to need to be rebuilt. But anyway, there's still one thing wrong. Well, you see, while Yellow Diamond's ship was destroyed, Yellow Diamond herself was not. And as a result, she just crawls right out of her ship, and she's right pissed. And so, she jumps right out, she jumps to the beach below, and yeah, it turns out that while Blue may have been flattened under her ship, she's not down for the count. As Yellow is able to lift up the hand of Blue's ship, and Blue Diamond just gets right back up. Her hair frazzled, and she's clearly pissed off, but not down. As such, it looks like the battle is going to begin anew, with Peridot even deciding to go rush forward and potentially call Yellow Diamond out again, which leads to a slightly shocking, slightly humorous scene where Peridot tries to go, "Hey, Yellow Claude, you remember me?" And Yellow's like, "No," before zapping her and poofing Peridot. As such, Steven once again tries going the diplomatic route as he runs up onto the beach and says, "Come on, I'm right. Come on, you need to listen to me. I'm not who you think I am. Things aren't the way you think they are." But Yellow, like Blue, is not listening as she just rushes up to Steven and attempts to crush her under his boots. Steven's able to thankfully save himself by throwing up a shield, but the impact is enough to knock him out. And so, yeah, Steven's kind of out of the fight. But he's not down, so to speak. He's unconscious, but it's here that Steven learns another aspect of his mental abilities. It turns out he can astral project, and upon being knocked out, he's able to project himself into, I'm going to call it the mind space, so to speak. As the space is just this big black void where he sees the phantom images of all of his friends all just fighting on top of what looks like just big statuesque versions of them. Although from in here he also sees that Lapis gets poofed as well, so yeah. But alongside them, he also sees the astral forms of Blue and Yellow as they're just sitting atop their bodies. And as such, while Connie is freaking out over Steven, he learns that he can actually make contact with everyone as he's able to hold Connie's hand and tell her, "I'm okay, I think I'm just astrally projecting." As such, Steven thinks that if he can't make Blue or Yellow Diamond listen in the real world, then maybe he can get them to listen in here. As such, Connie hearing this kind of understands what Steven wants to do, and after promising to take care of his body, Steven goes off to go and confront Blue and Yellow, which also leads to some really nice scenes as he ends up jumping through the ghostly images of Garnet, Amethyst, Pearl, and Bismuth. And what I like is that he can hear their thoughts in this mental mindscape. So he knows what all of them are going through and how they're feeling and what demons they're going through. And what I like is that in the case of Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl, the demons they're fighting all kind of coincide with their personal journeys throughout the series. Garnet's doing everything she can to keep it together for the sake of everyone. Amethyst is freaking out and afraid that she's going to blow it and she's going to get shattered. Pearl is thinking about everyone else before herself, but with a good word from Steven, all of them manage to kind of resolve themselves. As Steven says, don't worry, Garnet, made of love, and that gives her more resolve to keep fighting. In the case of Amethyst, he tells her that he believes in her, which gives her even more resolve. In the case of Pearl, he says, don't just fight for everyone else, to fight for yourself, which in turn gives her more confidence. And even in the case of Bismuth, she's having self-doubts about how she just got her friends back and now she's going to probably lose them, but Steven tells her it's going to be fine. It's like, and she even goes, what am I thinking? We haven't lost yet, before she goes back to kicking ass. As such, after going past the gem forms of Peridot and Lapis, Steven does eventually make it to Blue and Yellow. Unfortunately, though, their auras are a little too wild for Steven to get too close. While Yellow is almost outright impossible, Blue's aura, thankfully, while turbulent, is still fluid enough for Steven to get close to. But even then, all he's really able to do is able to get a word to Blue, which does get her attention but not enough to actually convince her what's going on. As such, he tries to talk to her again, and she feels it again, but as she talks about it, or as she verbalizes it, even Yellow's like, oh, come on, you're being hysterical like always. But however, that distracts Yellow enough for Steven to get close and manage to talk to her, finally making her realize, okay, something is going on here. As such, the Diamonds end up going on the offensive in the spirit world, and they realize something's there, what's going on, show yourself, whoever you are, and Steven tries to communicate with them again, but that also makes them finally realize that Steven's right there, and so they just shoot an aura blast at him to attempt to throw him off. But this finally gets Steven angry enough that he's able to unleash an aura attack of his own, just coating the entire area in a pink aura, which actually shocks Yellow and Blue. So much so that they just freeze in place, and Steven just says, no, the fighting has to end. We're not enemies, we're family. I need you to know who I am, before he just kind of hits them with a mental blast, and as they both look at this, both the Yellow and Blue realize something. He was telling the truth. And so, as such, they hold out their hands, and Steven just gently floats into them, before in the real world, Steven wakes back up. The fighting is over. Everyone's standing over him, Crystal Gem and Diamond alike. And the last shot of the episode is the Diamonds as they look just utterly shocked and horrified, before Blue just says, it's you, Pink. Thus, that's it. So, my thoughts on Reunited. First, let's talk about the action portion of the episode. I'll get to the wedding later, as I feel like, considering the consequences of the wedding, it's more important to talk about. But in terms of the story, the second half of this episode kicks so much ass. Oh my god, let's talk, the little boy in me that loves action and superpowered brawls. I had a ball watching the second half of this episode. From the instant the Diamonds showed up, this episode showcased that shit was about to go down. It wasn't just gonna be lovey-dovey, nice, schmaltzy stuff. No. No. We are here because these are super-powered aliens defending the Earth, and these are their nigh unstoppable enemies. The beings that want to conquer galaxies. Entire worlds have been subjugated and been decolonized or terraformed or unterraformed, or basically just hollowed out, and they are here on Earth because they want to see it blown up for the sake of getting their geoweapon, and we know that cannot happen. Everyone is ready to fight them. Crystal Gem, Human, even the geoweapon they're here for wants to fend them off and protect this planet. This is gonna be a brawl for the ages, and it delivers in spades. This is not the most epic of fight scenes out there, but it is still very epic. From Alexandrite popping in to support Steven, to Blue Diamond crippling the Crystal Gems with her grief wave, to Rosa's sword being shattered by Blue Diamond with just a flick of her fingers, from Lapis coming in and dropping a barn right on Blue Diamond's face, showing her coming back and bringing her character development full circle, which I'll talk about that after I'm finished gushing about the action. I thought, to the Crystal Gems bent to Lapis just brushing off Blue Diamond's grief and then trapping her in the ocean, to the Crystal Gems all banding together and uniting all their powers and weapons and abilities to just kind of knock the wind out of Blue Diamond until they finally manage to hit her with a blow so great it causes her to falter, and that falter is enough for the cluster to crush her right under her ship. That is awesome! The fight scene kicks so much ass! When I first saw this episode, I was giddy throughout the whole fight. The fast-paced action, seeing everyone coordinate with one another, from the awesome moments, from the things that make you pause, all just so flippin' good. I can't even be critical in this moment. I can't analyze the intricacies of this fight scene because the higher functions of my mind that are reserved for all that shit are instead kind of being put aside because the inner little boy in me is going, oh boy, violence! And it's amazing! I love it! It's an awesome fight scene. It's so cool to see it all come together, even in terms of character. Let's go talk about that for a second. Let's talk about Lapis Lazuli, actually. In the case of Lapis, this is a great crowning moment for her character development, which, as we've seen her character throughout the show, just constantly struggling and trying to find a place where she belongs. Sometimes she was first trapped on Earth as a prisoner, first by Homeworld, then by the Crystal Gems. Then she was released by Steven, who told her, "Go home. You don't go home, please." And she does, but upon arriving at home, she's trapped once again, made a prisoner because they believe they said she has intel. Then she's brought back to Earth because she can be a useful ally against the Crystal Gems and Rose Quartz, especially. But then once that goes haywire, in an attempt to try and protect someone that she cares about, she willingly makes herself a prisoner again just to trap Jasper beneath the ocean. And even that's a constant struggle as she keeps trying to beat Jasper down to keep her in place. But eventually she falters, but then is saved, and then she realizes she has nowhere to go, and while she doesn't fully trust the Crystal Gems, she trusts Steven, and stays on Earth, and begins building relationships, but then ultimately her fears get the better of her again when she realizes the diamonds might be coming back, and it causes her to be afraid, to run away, to almost abandon everything she did, but ultimately she finds that the friendships that she's made on this little blue rock are important to her, and she realizes, I can't run away, to the point where she ends up coming back, and despite all of her instincts telling her to keep running, she's like, no, I'm staying. And even when she has that brief moment in Can't Go Back where she still doesn't want to go, where she still doesn't want to, the instant the diamonds arrive back on the scene, she is there, ready to fight alongside her friends, and turning all of her grief, all of her sorrow into her power, as when Blue Diamond tries to hit her with the same amount of grief that she's been experiencing, Lapis just brushes it off and pretty much just gives her the rough equivalent of, "What else you got?" before immediately launching into another attack. That is perfect in my opinion. And yes, I didn't go into all the intricacies around it. Again, I'm still kind of in my fanboy mode here. But I think this is a perfect capstone for Lapis's character development and what ultimately kind of clinches it. Because throughout the entire series, Lapis has always been a character that's been struggling to find where she belongs. And even finding friends and allies that she can trust has always been a process. She didn't trust the Crystal Gems for justifiable reasons, and the people that she thought she could trust, Homeworld, continued treating her like the enemy. The only person that she knew she could trust was Steven, because Steven was kind to her. Steven was nice. Steven listened to her and allowed her to choose whatever she wanted while also supporting her in whatever she did. While he would try and encourage her to do one thing over another, he never outright said, do this or do that. He let her make her own decisions, and even when they weren't something that he wanted her to do, he still didn't stop her, because ultimately it was her freedom, her choice, and whether that choice was a good thing or a bad thing, it had to be hers. And that's what I liked about that. And it's that connection with Steven that made her start to grow and change. She allowed her to start making friends, start taking chances, doing things for herself. It's because of Steven that she had the courage to trap Jasper beneath the ocean. It's because of Steven that she opted to stay on Earth and get to know Peridot and the rest of the Crystal Gems. It was through Steven that she started calling them friends. And then ultimately, while she did kind of backpedal on her character development, as when she got word that when she believed that the diamonds may be coming back to Earth, she ran away and abandoned everything that she had built. But those connections also what kept her tied to Earth, as even no matter how far she ran, she still wanted to be with her friends. So much so that she came back to the moon and started spying on them through the moon base. And ultimately, while her fears were still prevalent and almost made her run away again, she quickly realized, I care about these people, and I'd rather die fighting alongside them than running away for my own sake. And so she came back and decided, I choose you guys. I love that. It's a great character capstone, in my opinion. It's such a great way to kind of bring everything that she's been through together and allowing her to finally turn all of her pain, all of her sorrow, all of the crap that she has been dealt with, and then to throw it back at her enemies and just say, I'm not backing down anymore. It's great. It's kick-ass, and I fucking love it. I love it. It's really nice, and I think it's a great way of capping it off. But what makes the fight even better too is that even when the Crystal Gems still get a victory, there's still the matter of they only really won in one battle. The diamonds are still not down, and the second half of the battle is a great emotional battle because ultimately, while the Crystal Gems could take on one diamond, two is a problem, especially when one of those two has the power to poop a gem just by zapping them. As we saw, which is what Yellow Diamond did immediately when Peridot tried insulting her in person, as she just pooped her immediately. And even when Steven was in his phantom state and was just kind of was viewing the battle from the mental realm. Well, Lapis, despite all of her power against Blue, immediately got zapped by Yellow. Yeah, she can overcome the emotional side of this struggle, but the physical side might not be a good thing. So I do like that. It immediately is a good way of turning the tide of battle and showcases that despite what the gems were able to do with Blue Diamond, Yellow is still another issue, and her and Blue together probably not going to be a good thing. But with that said, I do like how everything comes together with Steven ending the fight not with a big battle or him knocking them down and pooping Blue and Yellow Diamond. It ends with Steven finally getting through to them, because the one thing that keep Blue and Yellow going is the thought that, well, the Crystal Gems killed Pink Diamond. The reason they keep this going is because of their anger and grief, and we actually get a good way and we actually see that when Steven is seeing their astral projections. As while he can still hear the thoughts of the Crystal Gems, he can also hear the thoughts of Blue and Yellow Diamond when he approaches them. And what I like is that you can see their pain internalized through their thoughts. In the case of Yellow Diamond, we see that she kind of blames herself for what happened to Pink Diamond, since she's the one who gave the okay for Pink Diamond to have Earth, and ultimately she thinks I'm to blame for this. It's my fault. And odds are, just as Blue has found a way to turn her grief into a literal weapon, Yellow has used it as a fuel, essentially just diverting it towards everything else but her. So that's actually pretty sad. And even in the case of Blue, she's even further beating herself up and kind of going, what's the point of all this? Even if I make all these gems suffer, it's not going to bring Pink back. I actually like that. It's a nice way of adding layers to the bad guys. It doesn't make them like full three-dimensional characters, but it's enough to show that there is more to them than what you see on the surface. So again, I dig that. It is good. And even going off of that, I like the little bits of character stuff we get when Steven is interacting with the astral forms of the other Crystal Gems. As like I said, everything that each of the Crystal Gems are worried about kind of delves into their own personal struggles. Garnet is just struggling to keep everything together despite the tension that she's going through, and while Amethyst is freaking out because she thinks that she'll slip up and it'll cost her dearly, while Pearl is just going, I have to do this for her, I have to do this for him, and it's again. But then ultimately, it's thanks to Steven giving them all encouragement that they all managed to regain their resolve and kind of take to heart the lessons that they all had to learn throughout the course of the series. Garnet knows that she's made of love and she can keep it together. Amethyst has to have that confidence to know that she can keep doing this and that she's not going to fail. In the case of Pearl, it's about standing on her own feet and not doing this for anyone but herself. I love that. Even Bismuth, while Bismuth doesn't really get a lot of character stuff, it's actually a nice little thing here as she's worried about losing the fight, about losing her friends again, even though she just got them back. But Steven is able to convince her, no, it's like, okay, we can still win this, just keep going. And gives her more confidence, like, what am I saying? We haven't lost yet. I like that. It's just like a nice way of kind of bolstering her strength, so to speak. So I dig that. It's nice. And the ending with Steven finally getting through to Yellow and Blue Diamond and them realizing that this kid is technically Blue Diamond, I love that, because I love the utter shock on Blue and Yellow's faces when they realize when they realize the truth. When they see Steven's aura projected and they realize, oh my god, that's Pink. You can just see their worlds have just broken in two. But by that same token, the revelation that this person that they cared so deeply about is still alive, is still around. You can see just how much that actually kind of kind of flips their switch, so to speak. I mean, it doesn't make them good guys. No, far from it. They're still jerks, and they're still jerks. And the only reason they even stop fighting is because Steven is technically one of them. But the revelation that that Pink Diamond, someone that they've both been beating themselves up over the loss of for the last 6,000 years, is in fact alive. You can tell that it shakes them to the point where when Steven wakes back in the real world, their faces are just complete and utter shock, because it's like, it can't, like, you can, like, it's like it's like this. It's like being told, like, well, quite literally, it's being told that someone you thought was dead was alive, and that all this anger and grief and everything that you felt, it's no longer justified, and just kind of like it's fear mixed with hope. That's what I can that's the best way. That's the best mix of emotions that I can equate to their expressions. They are shocked, afraid, but also hopeful. Like, they're afraid that this is false hope. They are in shock because someone they thought was dead is alive, but they're hopeful because they hope because they're hoping it's true, that the person they thought was gone for so long is truly still around. And it's great. And having that be the end of the episode, I think, is a perfect capstone for the episode, as they had to kind of come to terms with that and quickly realize, oh my god, I love that, as it's a nice way of immediately just kind of not only ending the fight but the episode, as it shocks you, as it makes you realize what's going to happen next. What are they going to do? Are they going to be happy? Are they going to be shocked? Is this truly the end? Is this truly the end? And how are they going to react to the news that Rose was actually Pink Diamond? It's just like so shocking, and the fact that they're now in on the secret, it's enough to just make you go, oh. But it still leaves you wondering where things will go from here. I love that. It's a great way of ending the episode, and it's perfect. But we're not done talking about the episode yet. After all, that's the action portion of the episode. The portion of the episode that I should talk about, the one that actually kind of has the biggest consequences for the show, is the wedding. And I won't deny, it's a really nice wedding. It's really sweet and nice, and it feels like a great capstone to all the episodes before this. How about the struggle, about like the shot, like if you like, not only does this, like, here's the thing. The battle with the diamonds felt like a good capstone to the revelation that Rose Quartz was Pink Diamond, as now the diamonds are in on the secret and learning that this person they hated so much for thousands of years was actually the loved one that they had thought lost for all that time. That's a great way. That shock and fear and hope alone is a great way of bringing that to a head and having that lead to further developments for the series. But the wedding is a great payoff for the fallout from that revelation, because after all, the revelation that Rose was Pink the whole time hit hard for Ruby and Sapphire, but it gave both of them some much needed development, as both of them had to kind of work through this on their own, and both of them had to finally realize they did still truly care about one another. Yes, it was because of Rose that they stayed together, but at the end of the day, they did still genuinely like being together. They still cared about one another. They still wanted to be together, but they had to make this decision themselves. This had to be a revelation they had to come to on their own. They couldn't be Garnet again because someone told them to be Garnet. They had to do it for themselves. And so this wedding is them making that statement. This wedding is their way of telling each other, I love you, I care about you, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. And it's sweet, it's mushy, it's nice, and like the song Let's Only Think About Love, it's a nice bright spot and kind of in a much dark reality. After all, the revelations that we still had from the last few episodes are still kind of rippling throughout this one too. And like I said, that comes to a head at the end of the episode when the crystal gems have their battle with the diamonds. But having all of that having Ruby and Sapphire come together, it's a nice bright spot, and it's just sweet. It's just nice. It's so heartfelt. The emotions that Ruby and Sapphire have you can feel right through the screen. Hold on one second. Sorry, I blanked on the word for a second. The vows they exchange to one another about how deeply the other matters to them, to them, how deeply they want to, how much they want, how much they treasure all the time they've spent together, and how they want to continue treasuring and loving and being there for one another. It's sweet, and even in a meta sense, this is a big deal too. It's because not only does this act as a capstone for Ruby and Sapphire, but it's also the first gay wedding showcased in a children's cartoon, and it's done well. It carries the emotional weight perfectly. We've seen Ruby and Sapphire struggling with the aftermath of Rose Quartz, with the revelation with Rose Quartz, and how that affects their feelings towards one another. But them, hold on one sec, Jimmy came in. But them finally coming together and deciding it doesn't matter what anyone says, we want to be together. It's sweet, it's nice, and and seeing it all come together with Ruby and Sapphire exchanging their vows, telling each other they love one another, and then just embracing each other in a kiss before fusing back into Garnet. It's it's just sweet. It's really sweet, and it feels like a perfect capstone to to Ruby and Sapphire's struggles throughout the episodes. And it's also the moment that, unfortunately, kind of killed Steven Universe. Not in terms of quality, mind you, but in terms of production. Yeah, the thing is, the Crooniverse had been wanting to build up to this wedding for a while now, and this wedding was gonna happen one way or another. And I'll give credit where it's due. The fact that they kind of paired the wedding together with Blue and Yellow coming to Earth, wanting to get the cluster, and finally being let in on the secret that Pink Diamond was Rose Quartz. That's a perfect way of making sure this episode, even if some will not be skipped over by anyone that's not interested in not interested in the gay relationship between Ruby and Sapphire and doesn't want to see the wedding. But Cartoon Network was not okay with this at all. They did not want to have a wedding between two characters that essentially identify as women, and they wanted the Crooniverse to cut it. They wanted this wedding off. They wanted it to just go down the drain and then forget it. But the Crooniverse did not budge. They continued pushing for the wedding, so much so that eventually Cartoon Network gave them an ultimatum. Either you drop the wedding or the show ends. And they went through with the wedding. And as a result, Steven Universe came to a close. As a result, Season 5 was the last season of the original Steven Universe series. Now, it doesn't mean that now here's the thing. While they managed to squeeze a little bit more out of Steven Universe after the end of the series, which we'll get to that when we get to that. But yeah, this wedding was such a big deal, both in universe and out of universe, that it quite literally killed the show. Cartoon Network made good on their promise, and as a result, the next few episodes that we'll be looking at are indeed the last episodes of Steven Universe before we get to more of the follow-up stuff. So, yeah. The wedding itself, still really good, really nice, really touching, really good capstone, and it encapsulates everything, all the good, pure, raw emotions that Ruby and Sapphire feel for one another. And on top of that, I won't deny, from a meta sense, it also is kind of a nice stride. It's kind of a nice stride for LGBTQ rights, or LGBTQ representation in children's cartoons, especially with having Ruby and Sapphire officially be getting married. Because yep, it's a marriage that's official, and they keep referring to it as a marriage. So I dig that. It's nice, and yeah, it may have led to the show getting canned, but I think it's still worth the wait and still worth it. So yeah, I guess if I can kind of just give my full thoughts my complete thoughts. Reunited kicks so much ass. The first third of the episode with the wedding and seeing Ruby and Sapphire reunite into Garnet, it's nice, sweet, and is a kind of a good bright spot in all the dark, serious shit that we've been getting for the last few episodes. The middle section with the fight with the diamonds. It kicks so much ass, brings to is a nice capstone for Lapis's character, and is just so filled with so much adrenaline-filled action that my inner fanboy loves it. And the third act is a great capstone for the pink diamond reveal, having not with blue and diamond finally being revealed, with blue and yellow finally being let in on what the hell happened to pink, that rose quartz was actually pink diamond, and that the person before them is technically their lost sibling. So I love that. Reunited kicks so much ass. It really feels like a capstone to everything that came before. Overall, Reunited is an awesome episode, and I can't get enough of it. So there you go. But that's only one episode. What about From Legs From Here to Homeworld? Well, this one's a breather episode. Legs From Here to Homeworld immediately takes place the morning after the wedding, as the entire beach outside of the Crystal Gems Temple is littered with the rubble and remains of blue and yellow ships. And, well, blue and yellow, here's the thing. While yellow is trying to get the ships back up and running, blue is just wants to keep hugging Steven. Like, the episode even opens with her just nuzzling him to her cheek and just crying happy tears at having pink diamond back. It's actually kind of awkward. It's a little awkward. It's kind of weird, not unwelcome, but very awkward, to put it nicely. And again, because her powers are empathic in nature, all gems in her vicinity start tearing up as well. As such, they all start feeling it. Then eventually, eventually she does put Steven back down, and Yellow even eventually gives up on trying to bring the ships back online because, well, they're just too damaged. Even if she tries lifting it up, all she really does is just break off a finger. As such, with all the hugging and crying out of the way, Yellow wants to know why the hell Pink wants to know what the hell's going on. Because after all, like with all the other gems that Steven has encountered before, both Yellow and Blue are under the impression that Steven is his mom, which means they think he's Pink Diamond, and they want to know what the hell's going on. Why did he go through with this? Why did he fight them? Why didn't he say anything at the trial? Just so on and so forth. And so Steven has to explain to them that Pink, about how Pink faked her shattering, gave up her old form to become Rose permanently, and how she wound up giving up her existence to create a new form of life. In this case, Steven, and that ultimately he is not his mother, and that he has none of her memories. Though sadly, Blue and Yellow clearly don't fully understand what Steven's talking about, but all they do know is that Steven does not remember being Pink Diamond or Rose Quartz. So that's a little bit of a bust. Though Yellow thinks that Pink's memories should still be in there somewhere. But there's also another question. How is Steven still here? Because after all, I have to remind you all that the end of the war, all those thousands of years ago, the end of that war was literally the diamonds raising the whole planet in a white light. But this is also where we learn something about the diamonds. That attack was literally meant to wipe out any remaining gems on the planet's surface, and which is part of why they had their armies retreat. They were trying to save as many of their gems as they could before they just nuked the place. But they're wondering how the hell did Steven survive? After all, they were supposed to wipe everyone out, but Steven tells them they didn't exactly wipe out everything. As such, the gems and the diamonds end up going to the remains of one of the old ships, and Steven shows Yellow and Blue Centipedal. And what I love is that when Centipedal comes out first, she's nuzzling with Steven and happily taking chaps before she realizes Blue and Yellow are there and just goes which I like. But here's the thing. Yellow and Blue have no idea what the hell Centipedal is, which again makes sense. Peridot did say once before that they've never had corrupted gems on Homeworld, so the idea of a gem being completely corrupted is probably foreign to them in many regards. But Steven just tells him that Centipedal's mind is broken, but he thinks that maybe him, Yellow, and Blue might be able to fix her, since he got close once, and Yellow and Blue are so much more powerful than Steven, so maybe they can do something to help. As such, Blue and Yellow, while reluctant, do decide to try their hand on it, and sure enough, They are actually able to heal Centipedal. First, Yellow is able to restore her form back to her original gem form, though she's still feral and thinks she's a centipede monster. Blue is able to restore her mind, so she's able to think, though unfortunately she's still stuck in the sorrow and grief that have broken her mind so completely. While Steven is able to use his healing powers to calm her down and bring her back and bring her some semblance of normalcy. And yeah, it seems to work. Centipedal reverts back to her true self. In this case, her real name is Nephrite. And upon realizing she's standing in front of the diamonds, she salutes and apologizes for not being able to heed her Hessenite's warning. Which, yeah, that's a higher ranking gem. Which one Hessenite actually is the bad guy of the Steven Universe Light video game trilogy. But we're not going to talk about that. We're here to talk about the show. And ultimately she but either way, yeah, she apologizes, but also says, well, if you're here, that means you avenge Pink Diamond and destroyed Rose Quartz, which does cause everyone in the area to wince. But the instant that Steven, Yellow, and Blue let go of Nephrite, she reverts right back into Centipedal. And, yeah, it's not pretty. Which, while Yellow is a little outraged that Pink's actions resulted in so many adequate gems being broken so badly, Steven tries urging them to keep going, but the thing is, they can't do this for every single corrupted gem. They can't hold them together for that long. But they do stay. But Yellow says that while the three of them might not be able to do it, all four of them might be able to, which causes Steven to kind of go like, all four of us? Four? What do you mean? And everyone starts kind of wincing at this. Even Blue Diamond even kind of freezes up. And what I like is that here's the thing, she was the one that was kind of the most sympathetic to Pink's dilemma throughout this whole thing, and tried kind of being the devil's advocate for her. And so the fact that she's like, oh no, don't bring it up. But yeah, Yellow says, well, who do you think I'm talking about? White. Yep. After all, the hierarchy of diamonds consisted of 4 colors. At the bottom was pink, in the middle was yellow and blue, and at the top was a white diamond. The 4th diamond, the one above them all, the one that truly leads the gem empire. Unfortunately though, she's going to be a bit of a tough sell for all of this. Because you see, while the diamonds say that her added power might be able to heal all the corrupted gems, even Pearl tells Steven that Yellow is different from any other gem out there. She's not like any of the regular gems. She's not even like the diamond. She's like a whole other thing altogether. And even if she could help, that doesn't mean she will help. Even Blue and Yellow state that ever since the war, she has not left Homeworld in eons. She's been there a long time. As such, Steven just thinks, well, then we have to go to Homeworld. We need to convince her. But the question is still raised, how are they going to get to Homeworld? After all, any off-planet warps are broken, and Steven and co. destroyed Yellow and Blue ships. But Blue thinks, well, what about your ship, Pink? And so Steven thinks that they might be able to find a way. As such, he takes the crystal gems and the diamonds to the place where Rose kept all of her junk, and he even says they'll have to map the whole planet out. They'll have to look everywhere, and they map everywhere, from one side to the pink pyramids outside. He says they may be tough, it may be break, and they may get super hot, but they'll be worth it. At which point, Steven puts his hand on one of the pink pyramids, and it turns on. Yeah, it turns out the pink pyramids were pink diamond ships. Specifically, they were a giant pair of robotic legs. And I gotta say this, they got a fine ass. That stupidity aside. Yeah, Steven is able to bring the ship back to the beach, and basically from there, everyone starts prepping themselves for going to Homeworld. Connie says goodbye to her parents, who want to make sure she's prepared. Garnet tells Greg to keep an eye on Cat Steven while she's away, with even Greg asking, should I be worried about this, before Garnet affirms that Steven will be fine. And then finally, when Steven tries asking Bismuth if she's ready to go, she says no. She's not willing to do this. She doesn't want to be a part of a diamond entourage, and as she puts it, doing this is like walking right into the lion's den. It's asking for trouble. Though she does give Steven some good advice. He's a lion too. He needs to roar at that. He needs to roar at the other lions, make them listen. And on top of that, well, someone's got to stay behind and mind the Crystal Gem's base, and keep an eye on Lapis and Peridot, who have not managed to reform after the battle. So it's definitely something. So yeah. So Yeah, Bismuth is staying behind. So basically, all the only people that are going to Homeworld are the Diamonds, Steven, Connie, and the Core Crystal Gems. So, yeah, all of them board Pink Diamond's ship, and after Steven stumbles and fumbles a bit, he managed to finally take off. Which, again, what I love is that as he's doing this, we see everyone's reaction to it, and we see that Yellow Diamond is just wincing at this, Blue Diamond's just all peaceful and content. And even when they do manage to get off, Steven asks Pearl, I bet Mom was a lot more graceful, and her only response is, no, not really. But yeah, but yeah, eventually they all take to the skies. Though basically the whole thing is just kind of rough emotionally for everybody. Steven wonders if he'll be able to make a good impression with Yellow, make a good impression with White, while Yellow herself says that it doesn't matter what he says because if they arrive on the ship, it'll confirm the last 6,000 years are essentially a big galactic joke, and they'll be lucky if White Diamond doesn't have their hides for this. But with that bit of awkward tension in the air, eventually the ship does manage to make it to the gem Homeworld, and and as such, once they land, Blue and Yellow just tell everyone to stay behind, that they'll go meet with Yellow and let her know what's going on. But that's when everyone starts hearing cheering, which is much to everyone's confusion. And so once they exit the ship, they see that people have been waiting for them, as they see a whole legion of gems just outside cheering for the return of Pink Diamond, all happy and so forth. But immediately the cheering stops as a white bubble flies from a white head on Homeworld, which has been there the whole time. It was there the last time Steven was on Homeworld, but we didn't really see anything. But yeah, that head is where White Diamond is, and the bubble that comes out, it lands right in front of Steven and Co. And once it opens up, we see White Diamond's Pearl. And she's a tone setter for White Diamond, because White Pearl, as we're gonna call her for now, is completely opaque. Has no color aside from white and gray. And what makes it even creepier, one of her eyes is just like completely cracked and fractured, and yet she's just there posing like this, and was smiling, even saying, "Pink Diamond, your presence is requested." At which point, the White Pearl just takes Steven and flies back to White Diamond's head. And upon arriving in White Diamond's base, it's here we meet the creme de la creme, the big bad of the big bads. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time Steven Universe comes face to face with White Diamond. And what I love is that, again, you really get a sense of just how imposing this bitch is. Like with her Pearl, the interior of her base is just opaque, blank, and empty. And the only sign of light that we get from it is White Diamond herself, as she's literally glowing, just standing there posing. And when she talks to Steven, it's in a sweet, kind, condescending tone, saying, "Aw, Pink, there you are. Did you have fun, Starlight? Did you get it out of your system?" And every time Steven tries talking, she just cuts him off. It's like, "Excellent, welcome back," and then just shoos him off. Like, it really has a sense of a condescending mother, but from just that one scene and the few seconds we see from her, you really just get the impression that this is someone that you don't want to fuck with. And you really do get a sense of just how cold she truly is, as she just treats everything that Pink Diamond did in the War for Earth as a game. And that doing all this was just like a child throwing a tantrum, and that now she's gotten it out of her system and it's time to go to her room. Which she immediately does, as when Steven is whisked off, the bubble ends up appearing in what looks like a little mini room, and the last scene of the episode is Steven getting up as he looks out and sees White Diamond's head. So yeah, so my thoughts on Legs from Here to Homeworld. Like I said, this one is very much an aftermath episode that just kind of has to deal with the revelations, and this is one of the first episodes that really showcases. Sorry, give me a sec. Sorry about that, lunch was not exactly sitting right with me, plus I need to get a light. But like I said, this episode really does feel like an aftermath to what happened in Reunited, as this episode not only but also kind of showcases how the crunch that the Crewniverse had to wrapping up Steven Universe, as immediately following the events of Reunited, they really just kind of hit the ground running and don't stop. As from here, rather than giving everyone a moment to kind of collect themselves and get everything reorganized and so forth, Immediately, we get straight to exposition, as Steven has to tell the Diamonds what happened with his mother, what she did, and and even to warning them about the corrupted gems and how they need to fix them. Like that just immediately brought out there right away, and from there, immediately it just jumps right into the next big threat. In this case, White Diamond. She is gonna be, as if Steven and the Diamonds, if Steven wants to truly heal the corrupted gems for the Diamond's aid, then he needs all of the Diamond's aid, which includes White, as it was the power of her, Yellow, and Blue that corrupted all these gems, and if they want to put them back, then they need the power of all 4 diamonds to unite it. As after all, we do see that each of the diamonds' powers do have a way of stabilizing the corruption. Yellow is able to restore the form, Blue is able to restore the mind, and Steven is able to heal the emotions. All 3 of them do bring the gem back to a proper state of being, but in order to make all of this stick, they do need Yellow Diamond's touch, or White Diamond's touch. I'm sorry, I'm getting their names mixed up. They need White Diamond's touch. It's a nice way of still further establishing it. But from there, the rest of the episode really just kind of rushes through what you need to get through to get what they need to go through. It's like at this point they're like, okay, we're near the end of the series. We gotta go, which again is symptomatic of how the show got its run cut short because of Cartoon Network and the ultimatum they gave. So it still really feels like a big thing. So very much this still feels like a big. So as a result, the episode does sort of feel rushed a little bit. Not enough to take you out of the story, but it's enough that it's noticeable. Again, though, there is still some good stuff. There is still a lot to like in the episode. I like the kind of awkwardness from having to kind of accept that the Diamonds are now not gonna fight anymore, as now they're trying to be cordial with Steven. And what I like is that now that we're seeing them not be straight up baddies, we're actually seeing some more, for lack of a better word, positive interactions with Steven. And likewise, Blue is just completely emotional and so happy that Pink Diamond is still alive. Yellow is condescending and very much is just a bitch in every sense of the word. And even throughout this whole episode, they don't talk to any of the other gems sans Steven. Steven is the only one they care about because, after all, Steven's a diamond. He's the only one that's important. The rest of them, they tolerate their presence at best. That is what they do. They don't directly acknowledge any of the other gems besides Steven. They let them hang around because they're Steven's friends, but at the end of the day, it's clear they don't give 2 shits about them. The only reason they tolerate them is because Steven tolerates them. That's really all they care about. It's kind of telling, but I will say this. I think Yellow Diamond's a ball. I love Yellow Diamond as an asshole. Like, she's just a bitch, plain and simple. Like, she's not nice. She's not good. She is still very much an asshole. But at every opportunity, she will lash out with her barbed tongue at something. She gets angry at Steven. When she wipes her tears aside, she just flicks them onto the other gems. When she talks about how, when she chews Pink out for what she did, it's like, oh, Pink, why did you do this? You ruined so many perfectly adequate gems. Like, that's, like, you don't even call any of your soldiers good. You just call them adequate. Like, what a bitch. Like, that's like, she's an asshole in the highest regard. And what I love is that, and even, she's the one that even kind of does brings in the awkward tension to the end of the episode when she says, when we come here in the ship, everyone will realize that the last 6,000 years were a joke. So, again, I do kind of find that entertaining. And to contrast that, I love how Blue Diamond is always just making excuses for Pink Diamond's behavior. Like, the instant they learn that Pink Diamond and Rose Quartz are one and the same, gone goes the anger, the hatred, and the suffering. In its place is just immediate joy, relief, and happiness. And as a result, she's willing to excuse literally everything that Pink Diamond did. All the anger, all the suffering, all the grief. She says, oh, we don't have to punish Pink anymore. She's been trapped on this planet with creatures like this. Or, oh, it's been so long since you've been in Pink Diamond's ship together. And even what I love is that, like I said, while Steven's fumbling to get the ship going and everyone else is cringing or shaking, she's just calmly sitting in her seat going, like, I love it. I know. I don't know. I kind of like that. It still feels very much awkward to have them like this, as it's clear they're still not on the good guy's side. The only reason like I said, the only reason they're even tolerating anyone besides Steven is because they're his friends, and the only reason they're even listening to Steven is because he's also a diamond. So there is still some tension there, as you know. All it's going to take is the right push in the right place, and these two will go right back to wanting to kill everyone, sans Steven. So you know that's something. So it does that to create a sense of tension and unease, which only gets heightened when it's brought up that they need to go to Homeworld to meet with White Diamond, which, like I said, White Diamond immediately sets a tone with her, as like before we even see her, you get the sense that that she very much, like Pearl said, is not like any of the other gems we've seen. Her pearl is static, doesn't move, has a different voice than any of the other pearls that we've seen, and combine that with her white and grayscale color scheme, and the fact that one of her eyes is completely broken so much to the point where she only has one usable one. It's creepy and just unnerving. And then when you actually see her, you really get the sense of that. You really just get a sense of just how condescending and, in a way, cruel she is. Like, the only light in her life is herself, and she clearly does not listen to anyone. She doesn't respect anyone, even someone who's supposed to be her kin. Like, when Steven comes up, she treats everything that Pink Diamond did as if it was just a game, just something that just Pink Diamond throwing a temper tantrum and just acting like, oh, did you have fun? Did you get out of your system? Oh, thank the stars, it's over. You're home now, and it's good to have you back. It's like, it's just so condescending and just bitchy, and you really get a sense of just how much this person really does not give a shit about anyone, and that complete with how sterile and disturbing her base of operations is in her head, it lets you know immediately this is going to be an uphill battle. Steven's end goal at the end of the day is to convince White Diamond to come back to Earth with them so that she can help heal the corrupted gems. But whereas Yellow and Blue at least were willing to meet Steven halfway and do what he said because, hey, he's a diamond, it's clear that White Diamond isn't even going to give him that. It's a great tone setter, and immediately lets you know just what hurdles what the heroes are going to have to go to now to be able to face this foe. And combine that with the fact that they are once again back in an enemy territory as they're now stuck on Homeworld, it's very much an oh shit kind of deal. So it does make you invested and want to see where things go. So yeah, on the whole, Legs from Here to Homeworld, while feeling somewhat rushed in certain areas, also feels like a good tone setter, and definitely lets you know what hurdles the good guys are gonna have to overcome if they want to, get White Diamond on their side. So, yeah, on the whole, Reunited, kick-ass episode, really great stuff, has great emotional payoffs, great heartfelt moments, amazing action, and an ending that really makes you go, what's going to happen next? And I love it. While Legs from Here to Homeworld, while rushed in certain parts, does still have a nice little flow to it with characters, setting up what they're going to have to deal with next, what the next hurdle is going to be, and ultimately who the enemy is and just how hard it's going to be to convince her to join up with everyone. So on the whole, both are good episodes. So yeah, I think that's about all I have to say. I thank you for watching. If you stayed the whole an hour and 12 minutes, I thank you, and I hope to see you next week as we see just how Steven kind of settles into his new role as Pink Diamond. So till then, I hope you have a good Friday evening, and as always, take care.